Oh, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Training Talk right here on Personal Defense Network. I'm Grant Cunningham, and this is the show where we talk about you, about your life, and how to protect it. In the next hour, we're going to explore how you can train and equip yourself to face your own worst case scenario and keep you and your family safe from harm. Now, we don't do religion or politics on this show, and you won't hear like, fringe conspiracy theory craziness, just really good information that you can put to use in your life right away to help keep you and your family safer. And of course, if you enjoy what we're doing here at Personal Defense Network with this show and the other shows that we do with Rob Pincus and all the great videos, how about sharing it with your friends on social media? Put it up on Twitter, put it up on Facebook, all the other various social media that you might be into. How about sharing this and giving everybody a chance to learn the same great information that you're going to learn in the next roughly 59 minutes or so. So if you would do that, we would be very appreciative of it. And I'm sure your friends would appreciate it too. So welcome back to everyone. Those of you who are coming back, from our regular listeners is what the phrase I'm trying to come up with and having a very difficult time doing. But if you're a regular listener, thank you for joining us once again, taking time out of your busy life to be here. And if you're new to the show, if this is your first time, well, welcome, and just sit back, relax, and we're going to sit back and relax. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to talk about personal safety and keeping safe. And tonight we're going to be talking about travel safety, but we'll get to that in a moment. So welcome. And this is, as I mentioned on our last show, this show is not on the normal schedule. Of course, normally we do this the first and third Thursdays of every month, but this week, because of my travel schedule for the PDN Training Tour, we had to delay it a week, and so this is now the fourth Thursday of the month. So welcome, and I hope we didn't mess your schedule up too much with this little change. We'll be back to normal next time. So I'm going to welcome my guest tonight because we got a lot of stuff to talk about, and he's one of my favorite guests. You've seen him before; he's been on the show before. If you're a regular listener, if you're just tuning in for the first time, well, he's new to you, but he's not new to the rest of us. Andy Leffler of Mid Ohio IMB. Hi, Andy.
Hi, Grant. How you doing tonight?
I'm great. I was going to introduce you. I've been watching my wife and I have been watching a lot of Top Gear lately, I was going to introduce you like, they introduced the Stig, but I decided not to. I probably should have thought about that beforehand, but, so welcome. I'm glad you could join us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. It's always a blast to be on Training Talk.
Now I mentioned to everybody that you're with Mid Ohio IMB, but, that's not strictly true anymore, is it? Why don't you give us an update on what's happening with Mid Ohio IMB?
Well, the genesis of it, IMB, the Mid Ohio IMB we're an affiliate school of the IMB Academy, the International Martial Arts and Boxing Academy, and that's where a lot of the unarmed training comes from, with the boxing, the Muay Thai, the Jeet Kune Do, those things that my wife Julie does so wonderfully well. And obviously, as we've grown the company, we've integrated the firearms training and made it a more well-rounded, practical self-defense company. And as that growth has taken place, we've gotten a lot of people who want to know more about it, but maybe wouldn't look at the name, immediately, Mid Ohio IMB, and pick up on what it meant, or what we were all about. So we maintain our affiliation with the IMB Academy, but because we've grown both in the things that we do and with the people that we have, we're involved with, we decided to get to put together something that made a little more sense. If I just went ahead and told somebody who had not heard of any of it, the name. So Mid Ohio IMB is still going to be an IMB affiliate school, but we are transitioning to our new identity, which is Compass Defense Group. So we're going to be the Compass Defense Group, still doing everything that we were doing before, and then expanding our capabilities, expanding our reach, and expanding our affiliations with other groups, with other people, with students. We want to try and reach as many people as possible. And succinctly, it seemed just like calling ourselves Compass Defense Group made it a little more obvious, who we were, what we were doing, what kind of the thrust was, rather than having to have that conversation about what does IMB mean. So, like I said, we're maintaining our IMB identity, but we're going to be the Compass Defense Group. We chose Compass because we're gonna maintain the IMB Academy's purpose, which is to help people find their own path. So the Compass thing kind of suggested itself well.
Well, that's cool. Congratulations on the new name, and I've seen the logo, and the logo is very cool. Do you guys have a new URL for your website?
Yes, it's. I don't think it's active yet, but it will be the Compass. It will be compassdefensegroup.com,
Okay,
unless something has changed that I haven't been informed of, which has been known to happen.
Yeah, I know that happens to me just about every day, actually. So, well, very cool. Compass Defense Group. I think it's a great name, and congratulations to you and Julie on growing. I mean, this is incredible that you guys are growing and adding new stuff and have all kinds of things for people. Some great classes. So, congratulations. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you. We're very excited about it.
Well, great. So, interestingly enough, tonight's theme is travel, and I've been traveling, you've been traveling, Julie's been traveling, everybody's been traveling, and that's kind of what happens in the spring when we've got the PDN training tour. And so we're going to talk about that for just a minute, because the training tour is when we do this every spring, and from about March to about the end of July. And it's a chance for all of the contributors here at PDN, all of whom are instructors, by the way. Everybody here that puts content up, whether it's an article or video, whatever it is, everybody here is an instructor. And that's one of the requirements, as a matter of fact, to be a contributor to Personal Defense Network. And so every spring we get everybody together and say, hey, let's schedule a whole bunch of classes during this time. And we've got, of course, training tour sponsors who help underwrite this whole thing. And the whole idea is to get people traveling to different parts of the country, taking training to people in parts of the country that otherwise may not always see it. Most of the time you might have to go to, someplace to get training. But during the training tour, we make an effort to get out more, to get into the less served areas and maybe some of the smaller towns. And so every year, we've got a big list of courses and contributors that are on it. And so I thought I'd share with you what's going on in the next few weeks with the PDN training tour. So let me get this started here. And what I need to do is screen share this thing here. And here we go. I'm going to screen share this, start the screen share. And I'm always there. Okay. So hopefully everybody can see that now. I'm always a little leery because there are like two buttons you have to do to make that work, and it doesn't seem very intuitive to me. But okay, so here we go. This is the PDN 2018 training tour dates, and to get to this, just go to the PDN site and hit the training tab here and go to tour dates and locations. That's where you find this stuff. And so you can see, and it's generally updated fairly often. And so let's just kind of take a look at what's going on in the next few weeks here. And there's something that I noticed, and I thought this was a typo. I thought the office staff had made a typo. But so on the 28th, which is 4 days from now, Rob Pincus is going to be in Peoria, Illinois, teaching his intuitive defensive shooting class, and that's a one-day class. On the 1st and 2nd of June, Cecil Birch, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu knife guy, great instructor with all this stuff, is going to be teaching his close contact handgun in Peoria, Arizona. Now, I thought that was a typo. So I went and looked, and there is in fact Peoria, Arizona. I had no idea. So we've got two classes. Pick your Peoria. We got classes for you this year. Okay. So, close contact handgun with Cecil Birch, and Cecil's one of the great experts in that, dealing with stuff in contact with your attacker. It's a great, anything with Cecil is great. And of course, Rob Pincus is going to be in Waterman, Illinois, teaching fundamentals of combat focused shooting and combat focused carbine. And then on the 8th of June, Mike Seeklander, great teacher, great competitive shooter, is going to be teaching basic handgun marksmanship in Pryor Creek, Oklahoma. And this is, again, one of these places that maybe, somebody like Mike doesn't get to very often, but we get to these things on the training tour. And on the, I'm going to highlight these things so you can see what I'm talking about here. On the 9th of June, which is about a week from now, a little over a week, in Bright, Indiana. Bright, Indiana. Fundamentals of Concealed Carry with Clint Macro. You've seen Clint on the show. Clint's the one with the great studio from where he does his videos and audio and all that kind of thing. Great instructor, great teacher. He's going to be doing that. And then on the same day, on the 9th of June, in Brookfield, Wisconsin, Rob Pincus is going to be doing Fundamentals of Intuitive Defensive Shooting. And you're going to notice probably more classes happening in Wisconsin. It's really turning into a really hot training area these days. In Upland, Pennsylvania, on the same day, the 9th of June, our friend Caleb Causey, our medical expert here at PDN, is going to be doing a class called Range Response, which, if I remember the class correctly, is dealing with the kinds of injuries, including gunshot injuries, that happen on a shooting range. And all of Caleb's medical classes are great. If you get a chance to take a class from Caleb, do it. It's really is that good. And on the 10th, in, again, Brookfield, Wisconsin, Rob Pincus is going to be doing a one-day intuitive defensive carbine class. So check that out if you're in Wisconsin. Again, in Upland, Pennsylvania, on the 10th, Caleb Causey is still going to be there, and he's going to be doing his dynamic first aid class. This is a class I don't really know much about, but if you click on the link, like I almost did here, click on the link and it will take you to his site and tell you all about it and that kind of thing. But if it's a class from Caleb, it's going to be good. And again, on the 9th and 10th, Mike Seeklander is going to be in Pryor Creek, Oklahoma, teaching defensive handgun speed and accuracy and dynamic movement skills. And Mike is a master of high speed, high accuracy shooting. It should be a good class. And then on the 10th, again, in Bright, Indiana, Clint Macro is going to be teaching his Fundamentals of Home Defense class. On the 10th of June, in Victorville, California, Maggie Mordaunt is going to be teaching Fundamentals of Concealed Carry. And Maggie is, if you've never taken a class from Maggie, she is high energy, high enthusiasm, and just a really inspiring teacher. Definitely worth checking out. And then on the 12th and 14th in Central City, Iowa, Rob Pincus is going to be there doing Fundamentals of Intuitive Defensive Shooting and Intuitive Defensive Carbine in Central City, Iowa. So those folks in the Midwest are getting a really good dose of classes this year. So be sure to check them out. And all the other, as you can see, there's a bunch of other classes, and ending again on the 31st of July in Washington, which is the tradition is it starts in Florida and ends in Washington every year. So we kind of cover the whole nation with classes from PDN. And again, if you click on any of those links in the listing of classes, it'll take you directly to that instructor's site where you can look at the class, sign up for it, all that kind of thing, and so you know ahead of time what you're getting into. And so this is a great thing that we do again every year during the spring, and we put on the training tour. The one thing I should probably tell you about are the great sponsors that we have, because we really do have great sponsors every year. And this year, of course, Crossbeat Holsters, and they've been a perennial supporter of PDN and the training tour. Really nice people down at Crossbreed. I know probably 80% of their staff now, and a better group of people you just can't imagine. Viridian Weapon Technologies, they do lasers, and they've also got a thing now, a camera that attaches to the gun and comes on when the laser comes on, video camera. Of course, the USCCA, United States Concealed Carry Association, and Angel Fire Ammunition. CERT pistols, these are the laser-equipped training pistols that everybody's using these days. Springfield Armory USA. And, of course, if you haven't seen any of Rob Pincus and Rob Latham's Worlds Collide series from Springfield Army, you really should check it out. They're really entertaining and enlightening. 511 apparel. I don't have. I should have my 511 jacket here to show you. But 511 apparel, Patriot Ordnance Factory USA, makers of AR-15s, Mission First Tactical, and Holosun. Holosun is a maker of optics. And there's one logo here that I think that's Mission First Tactical's logo, but I'm not really sure who that. There's one there that I don't really recognize, and it doesn't have any text, so I can't tell who it is. But these are the great sponsors that we have. They really do step up to the plate and help us out. The logo is from Cryptek, which makers of they make clothing, camo clothing, right, Andy? I think that's what they do.
Yeah, I'm surprised you're able to see the logo, but
yeah,
they
exactly.
they make some good stuff.
Well, I didn't recognize it, so obviously the logo is working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, anyway, so a bunch of great sponsors again this year, making it possible for us to take training into areas of the country that might not otherwise get it.
Well, and the other thing that about the training tour that I try to tell people is, when you tell them it's going to be PDN, they're familiar with it from a distance, and they go, "Oh, okay, Rob Pincus is going to drive around and do his classes." Well, he does, but the real point of it is how many different instructors we have teaching how many different things. It really is, for anybody, from the medical stuff to the competitive stuff, to defensive use of handguns, rifle, carbine. I mean, it's all in there.
Yeah,
just about anything somebody wants to train with. There's a subject matter expert. There's a leader in that field who's going to be part of this. And like you say, we try and spread it around the country. So it's great.
So this is the point at which I do my Ed McMahon impersonation, say, everything you could ever want in training is right here on the training tour, right?
Yep. Are you going to have something scrolling that explains who Ed McMahon is?
Yeah. The sad part is you have to explain that these days.
There you go.
Google it, people. Just Google Ed McMahon. All right. Like I said, we've both been traveling recently. I was in Texas teaching, and I spent nearly a week in Texas. Ate lots of barbecue. It was wonderful. And you went down to, I think, Atlanta about the same time?
Yeah, we took a road trip down to Georgia, and that kind of got us thinking again about travel, about the season coming, with the summer coming, the weather's turning nice. This is Memorial Day weekend coming up. That's always a huge travel weekend, and we started thinking about what we were going to do for ourselves for our trip, and how we can maximize what we want to do and minimize risk. For example, it's all about managing risk. Self-defense. The ultimate in self-defense is putting yourself in a position where you're not going to have to use that tool. So it's easy when you're focusing on learning to use the tool. It's easy to lose sight of that. But our whole point is, let's not use the tool if we don't have to. So we started talking about all those things, and that's why we wanted to make sure we got a chance to be on the show with you and talk about some stuff. So
as you're starting planning for a trip, where you're going, how long you're going to be gone, the days and that kind of thing. What are some of the very basic things you do in your trip planning to provide for your safety and security?
Okay, well, we kind of lump that together with like the pre-trip checklist type stuff. And it includes the normal things that most of us probably would do anyway. We get the car checked out, if it needs the oil change, make sure your tires are good, all that kind of stuff that people would normally do. And then we factor in some of the things that are going to be more unique to, say, the concealed carry permit holder, for example. Part of our pre-trip checklist is going to be, when we're planning our route, we're doing a driving trip across several states, we're going to familiarize ourselves with the laws that we might need to know. And there's a number of resources, websites like handgunlaw.us, or the Android or iPhone, you can put the app on of the Legal Heat or several others that give you a good basic rundown of some of the, if you'll forgive the term, bullet points of, say, what concealed carry, what Georgia says about concealed carry, what Tennessee says about concealed carry, something like that, to make sure, we're going to make sure we're not going to go across a place where our permits are not going to be honored. And we also want to know what the details, or some of the more important details about, for example, what does Tennessee say about a concealed carry permit holder who is armed, in a establishment that sells liquor for consumption on the premises. It takes me about 5 minutes to find that information before I even leave home. And that way I already know that. So we look at things like that. We look at, how long is the drive going to be, because that's going to be a comfort factor. When we advise people about choosing their firearm or choosing their holster, we talk about that comfort, where you're going to put it, and what's comfortable for maybe short duration while I'm around the house, around my home in my day-to-day routine, that might change when I'm talking about being behind the wheel for 9 hours on a highway or something like that. So we want to make sure we think ahead of that. Another thing that we factored in along with that was, if, for example, there was going to be a firearm, off body, for example, we have access to something in the vehicle. We went ahead and made sure, okay, let's make sure we know where our documentation is, our car registration, proof of insurance, the driver's license, all those things were together in a place where the gun was not. In the event we had we're not going to have an unscheduled official law enforcement encounter, shall we say, that way that's already covered. I'm not going to reach into a glove box looking for a registration that also has got a handgun in it, for example. That's it's those types of things that we have to factor in, that little extra measure that we're going to take to make sure on our pre-trip planning that it's going to be smooth sailing. We're going to have a vehicle that runs well. We're going to have access to all of our necessary stuff, and the things that need to be separated from each other are going to be separated from each other, and we're going to keep ourselves as comfortable as we can as well.
You mentioned checklists, and I have a check. This is actually the checklist I used for my last trip. I don't know if you can see that, but there's one page of my check. I actually have a checklist for this stuff. So one of the things that, particularly when you're driving, and you're driving across quite a number of different states, and I'm glad you mentioned handgunlaw.us, because it is a really great resource for knowing this stuff. But one of the things that I'm always cognizant of is that, for instance, where you can have a defensive handgun on your person varies rather considerably from state to state. In my own state of Oregon, I'm going to use this word, but we are very, very liberal in our concealed carry laws, in that basically, other than federal property, of course, which doesn't come under state law, but other than federal property and courtrooms, basically we can carry everywhere in the state of Oregon. And I do mean everywhere, churches, schools, bars, all this kind of thing. But this is not the case in all states. And knowing where you can and cannot carry that becomes vitally important. So what provisions do you make when you're traveling for those situations where you have to take the gun off to go someplace that you want to go? What do you do with it?
Well, that kind of puts you in a more tenuous position. That kind of puts you in a more complex position, I should say. If, for example, the road trip is going to unavoidably take you into an area where things are going to change dramatically like that, you could revert back to, the way federal law says that you can transport the handgun. A lot of people who want the handgun available for defense, for example, it's not as popular with them, having unloaded guns in locked cases out of reach, with the ammunition separated from them or whatever the regulation happens to be. But I firmly believe that it's part of being being a good citizen. It's part of my responsibility to make sure that whether I happen to be in agreement with whether it's a good idea or not, in this particular place, to comply with those regulations, because you got to remember you're not at home, and if we're concerned with doing things the right way and keeping ourselves safe in our familiar environment, then when we're in the unfamiliar environment, that ought to be that much more important to us.
Now you probably stayed in a few hotels or motels on your way down there, correct? And well, how long a drive is that, by the way?
Straight through around 8.5 hours.
Oh, okay.
From where
that's
we left off. Yeah, it wasn't. This particular trip wasn't too bad. It wasn't a real major slog, but we did stay in a couple of hotels. Obviously, there were gas station stops, restaurant stops, things like that,
right,
along the way. And again, those are the types of things we plan to head for.
So, what do you do when you go into a hotel room for the night? How do you protect yourself there against intrusion and that kind of thing?
Well, most hotel rooms are going to be equipped, with the doors, with the chain lock. They're going to have the hinged hook type of thing you don't see very often in a residential environment, but hotel rooms usually have them. One thing that we sometimes take with us is you can, at the hardware store, you can get those adjustable kick bars that wedge up underneath a doorknob from the inside. You've seen some of those. They can be adjusted for length and adjusted for height. A lot of people use them on a secondary door or a back door they don't use in their home very often. That's a good idea. There's a wonderful product that I saw a couple of years ago called the Wedge, which is essentially it's a door stop used from the other direction. Normally we use a little triangular, wedge-shaped door stop to hold a door open to keep it from closing on us. Well, the theory was, in my closed hotel room, I can keep this. I can use the same principle to keep the door from opening on me. And those can be had. You can go on Amazon and buy something like that for a couple of bucks. But like I say, most hotel rooms are equipped with fairly decent door locks. One thing I like to do as a personal preference is I like to avoid the first floor. Lots of hotel rooms are equipped with a sliding glass door type of arrangement, and that's just a little more problematic. There are things you can do. An adjustable bar can be, you can carry an adjustable bar to wedge something like that, make it a little more difficult to open. My favorite tactic is to get a room on the second or third floor where that's not necessarily going to be a problem. Another thing I like about having the room on the second or third floor, and while we're talking about hotels, is I get a better vantage point of the parking lot. Whenever checking in, I like to find out where the room is, and then we go out and and we'll bring our stuff in, because I like to see if I can park the car someplace where I can see it from the room. Ideally, I've got a view of it from the room, and I can park it next to or near a light. A light in the parking lot or something. It's just one of those things that it's not going to do necessarily in and of itself do something to prevent somebody from breaking into my car, and I'm not pulling up the chair and spending all night staring out the window, at the car. But it's something I can do that maybe lessens the opportunity, for something bad to happen with the car. When we're talking about the car for travel, another thing I think is important is, we've all heard in self-defense, we talk about the gray man principle, where those of us who are, with the training and the preparation and the tools of self-defense, we don't necessarily like to advertise that. And try to appear as innocuous as possible. When traveling, I really like the idea of the vehicle, taking on that kind of gray aspect as well. I did something several years ago that I considered, I'd been in the gun business for a long time and accumulated a massive amount of of gun manufacturer and related product logos. You were just showing the PDN tour sponsors and all their logos and things like that. A couple of years back, I went ahead and sanitized that from my vehicles, because I wanted them to appear less tempting. In the, Christmas time, I go to the shopping mall, to buy, to try and find a, a gift for my wife or something like that. When, the car that doesn't say anything about gun ownership may not be targeted for a smash and grab looking for a gun, for example. So I kind of apply that gray man principle to the vehicle itself, try and keep it innocuous looking, and try and minimize that logo stuff. I know people enjoy having that, and I certainly don't have an argument with somebody putting that on their vehicle. I like, when I'm away from home, I like that to be minimized. One of my packing habits, when throwing my clothes in the bag for the trip, is avoiding those, the gun logo stuff and things like that, so that I'm not, hundreds of miles away from home advertising the fact that I might be the armed person. I kind of emphasize that, the gray man approach, to kind of be as as unappealing as possible, if that's the right term you want to use, as far as being a target for, somebody looking to steal a gun or something like that from us.
You talked about in the hotel rooms, getting a hotel on the, or a room on the second or third floor, and I do that as well. And in fact, I've routinely turned down offers of a first floor room. No, I really want something up higher. The other thing that I do is, when I go into a hotel and get up to my room, there's always that little placard up, next to the elevator that you are here and here are the emergency exits. I actually look at that, and I actually walk from my room to the emergency exit, or if there's more than one, walk to both of them, so that I know for a fact where the emergency exit is. I take note of where the fire extinguishers are, if any, and there usually are. But take note of where the fire extinguishers are, not only in terms of fire suppression, but should you need an improvised weapon, an environmental type weapon, because you're in a jurisdiction where perhaps you can't have a defensive firearm.
Sure. And that's
so I do that routinely.
Oh yeah, and that's and those are doing something like that. Familiarize yourself with those fire exits. That's something we would do anyway, whether we were looking at our self-defense context or not. But like you point out, a lot of times these, there's a dual purpose for doing that, and we're starting to see that, people are starting to think more comprehensively about, protecting themselves, that, because that's protecting yourself in the event that there's a fire, but it also gives you some other options. It gives you that knowledge, ahead of time. Julie and I were talking about, before we left, that a few years ago, we didn't do things like, okay, we're taking an 8-hour drive. Let's take some water, let's make sure we have, a little extra water with us, a little extra non-perishable, the protein bars, just to, in case we break down in the middle of nowhere. Something like that. First aid equipment, not just the boo-boo kit with the Band-Aid and the Bactine in it, but, the trauma kit, if we have some kind of an accident, or, if we come upon somebody, some kind of an accident, and that attitude is really starting to take hold, from what we're seeing, in the defensive training community, where you and I can both remember times when an actual trauma kit, on a live fire range was the exception as to, compared to the rule. And then today, I would be hesitant to go onto the range with a trainer who didn't have one at this point. And, with the availability of training, people like Caleb Causey, and others who do such a great job with it, it's really one of those things that should just naturally be part of everybody's checklist anymore. Your range bag should have some medical supplies in it. And if you're equipping the car for the long trip, you should have some supplies as well.
I carry a trauma kit with me wherever I go. And, a number of years ago, whenever I fly, a number of years ago, the trauma kit was routinely scrutinized by TSA. And in fact, I actually had a tourniquet taken away once because they said the windlass was a Kubaton. It was a weapon. And TSA doesn't even look at them anymore. They're used to seeing tourniquets. They're used to seeing rolls of gauze. They're used to seeing the Israeli bandages. They know what this stuff is, and they just pass it through. I wanted to tell people that one of the products that Andy mentioned, and it's a product that I use too, the heavy duty door wedges. The name of them are Wedge It, Wedge-It.
Right.
The ultimate door stop, and they're available, of course, on Amazon. But they're available in black, baby blue, lime green, olive drab, orange, pink, and of course yellow. So, and these things don't look like your regular door stops. They're really super heavy duty, and you stick one of those under the door, tap it in, and it's going to be very, very difficult to get that door open.
Right. Yeah. That the Wedge It.
That's the Wedge It. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I carry mine. I mean, I carry mine on the on the airplane with me. They never get a second look. I guess TSA is used to seeing them too. So, excuse me. I wanted to take a second out here. Since this is I think a pretty good interlude, I want to take a second out and talk about premium membership here at Personal Defense Network. Do you mind if we do that?
Oh, no, that's a great topic.
I know you're a fan of it. I'm a fan of it. Everybody should be a fan of premium membership here at Personal Defense Network because you know all about the free articles and the free videos and the free live shows like this one that we do here at Personal Defense Network. But we have another side to Personal Defense Network, and on the membership side, you'll find full-length videos, DVD-length videos. Yeah, I know DVDs are on the way out. Nobody says DVDs anymore, but long format videos on specific topics that you can study and learn from. It's a great way to get some basic training in a lot of different aspects of self-defense. And these videos are put out, of course, by our incredible team of contributors here at Personal Defense Network. And we've got video collections, specific videos from various people all on one topic. So you can find a topic that you need. I need information on, I don't know, hotel security. I don't know if we've got a video collection of about that yet, but if we did, you'd be able to just click on that and watch everything we've got about that topic. And of course, access to distance education or online courses. You have access to that through the membership side as well. And so this is a great way to get self-defense information, reliable self-defense information, vetted self-defense information that you really can't get anywhere else. Now, usually the price for premium membership, I think it's gone up. I think it's actually $39.95 now. I'd have to go look. But we've got a deal for you. Because you're listening to this show, you can get your first year premium membership here at Personal Defense Network for only $10. All you have to do is sign up for a premium membership, and there are links all over the site. If you're watching the show on the PDN show page, there will be links top and bottom to sign up for premium membership. Sign up, get to the checkout, and you'll see a little coupon code or discount code box, and just put this in. Grant 10, Grant, the number 1, the number 0, all one word. Grant, the number 1, the number 0, all one word. And you'll get your first year of membership, premium membership at Personal Defense Network for only $10. It's a screaming deal, and you'll be amazed at all of the great information that $10 measly will buy you here at Personal Defense Network. So again, Grant 10, Grant, the number 1, the number 0, all one word. Remember our cheesy graphics. All right, just remember our cheesy graphics. Grant 10, and that will get you your first year of membership, premium membership at Personal Defense Network for only $10. It's not limited. It's not metered. None of that stuff. It's your first year of premium membership for only $10, and it is a whale of a deal. So check that out. Be sure to use that code. Like I said, just remember our cheesy graphics. I'll tell you, Andy, what we do with this, we save money on graphics and we pass the savings on to you.
Yeah. If you had one of those fancy, big fancy animated displays or something, you couldn't afford to be knocking $29.95 off the premium membership.
Yeah. Yeah. We make we put this back into the product, folks. So, uh, anyway, anyway, so back to travel security. We're talking about staying in hotels. One of the things that I think is useful when I travel is I generally do a Google search for common travel scams, because people are thinking up new travel scams all the time to take advantage of unwary travelers. And sometimes they start in foreign countries and make their way here. Sometimes they start here and go, we export it. We're probably a net exporter of this stuff. But I always check and see what the latest scams are. And of course, one of the ones that we always tell people is if you get a call from the desk that tells you, oh gosh, your credit card didn't go through, just give us your number again. Never do it. Go down. Of course, always ask to see employees' identification before letting them in the room. All that kind of stuff is really important. And Google is your friend on this stuff. There's a lot of really good information out there. And it amazes me if people were as industrious at going out and finding a job as they are at inventing new scams. Man, we'd have full employment. I got to tell you, it's amazing. Some of them are very, very ingenious. So does what you do change if you have to fly? What do you do if you have to fly?
Well, obviously, you're going to have all the regulatory concerns about transporting. If you're taking the firearm and transporting the firearm, through. On the commercial aircraft, and there are some very uniform, very set in stone type of rules governing that, as a lot of us know. There are some places that should be strenuously avoided if you're planning to fly into them with a firearm, but for the most part, you're going to be okay.
New York,
but
just saying. All right.
But for the most part, it's going to be fairly well laid out for you, right? That because your experience in the airport, your experience on the airplane, those are going to be fairly regulated for you. Once you're on the ground in your destination, I think some of the same things that we've been talking about apply. Where it becomes a little more difficult is the fact that now you didn't have the luxury of packing up and staging your own vehicle. Now you're on the ground, you've gotten off the plane, you're either relying on some other form of transportation or maybe renting a car, where some of the things you can have set up the way you want them, and some of the things are not going to be that way. So I think the important things about the airline travel are going to be making sure that first of all, you're in compliance with TSA, or also the trip ends right when you get to the origination airport. Checking the laws of the destination, knowing where you're going and what the regulations are going to be like when you get there, and then planning ahead, the kind of stuff that you can have with you and what you can expect as far as, there's going to be a dramatic difference, I think, if I was relying on public transportation versus having my own vehicle or having a rental car. Those are going to affect things like the type of luggage, the type of bag. I'm more prone to go with something that's ergonomic, like a backpack or something like that, whereas I can throw a gym bag in my car. I don't feel like hauling a gym bag around when I'm walking around on foot, a lot, or trying to go, transfer from the bus to the metro station or something like that. Something like a backpack, could be number one, it can be more easily, more comfortably carried. Number two, I can provide for a way to maybe more securely attach to my body, because it's not something I'm going to be able to lock in my car. It's attached to me, visible to everyone I'm in vicinity with. So there's some of the stuff is done the same way, take into account the different conditions that you'd be looking at.
A lot of people, and this goes for when you're in the airport, on the plane, but also if you're going to a place where you cannot carry a defensive firearm, and there are a lot of places where you can't. especially if you're going overseas. That's just out completely. If you're going to Hawaii, it's out completely. So there are a lot of places where you can't carry a defensive firearm. And one of the things that I like to carry, and particularly in the airport, and I'm going to mention this because I happen to know that Compass Defense Group has a class to use this tool. This tool is a flashlight, your basic handheld high intensity flashlight. These things are great. You can use them as impact weapons. You can use them as distraction tools. You can use them to like illuminate dark cars so you can see if anybody's hiding under it or in it or something like that. Tremendous tool. And I know that you guys teach a class in how to use these things as defensive tools, don't you?
Oh, absolutely. Been doing that for a long time. And, Julie does the realtor specific classes where realtors can actually get continuing education credits for taking the class. But like you say, the flashlights come in all kinds of shapes and sizes and all kinds of different features. And I'm glad you brought it up because that's one of the things that we talked about as well is those tools for when, for example, our car trip that we just came back from, we didn't have too many places where we couldn't carry guns, but because the part of the reason for the trip is, we're doing things, for the enjoyment, we're going to go, we're going to go out to eat, we're going to enjoy an adult beverage out in the town that pretty much says no to the gun. So what are those alternative things? Or we're going to some place, I like to visit the national parks, a lot of places or museums and things like that, where I'm not going to be able to carry the gun. So like you say, our number one go-to has got to be that flashlight because of its utility. It's going to pass muster with virtually every type of scrutiny. I mean, you've carried them on a commercial aircraft. I've carried them on the commercial aircraft. They're used to seeing them now. The flashlights don't cause too much of an uproar, and so there are other things that we like. And again, you when you're doing your homework, the jurisdictionally, you may or may not find yourself on solid ground or not, but there are some pretty clever answers to some of the problems about going armed. I kind of like, along the same lines, doesn't have the capability of the flashlight, but if I want to have a big marker, I want to have my Sharpie with me. It just so happens that the folks at Cold Steel make a Sharpie, but they encase it in a nice big heavy polymer case.
Lift called that the up Shark. A little more. Oh, wow.
This is called Cold Steel Shark. I think this retails at $5. And it's just got a regular Sharpie in it, and the cap unscrews, and it fits out of both sides of the hand, can be used as the impact weapon. Very innocuous because it's just a big marker. Any place where you'd be allowed to have your Sharpie, you should be able to have something like that. And at $5, if somebody were to, give me some kind of static about, I have no problem chucking that in the can and forgetting about it because, I've only got $5 in it. A $100 Surefire light or $200 Surefire light, I'm not going to give up as easy. A Benchmade knife, you're not going to throw in the trash can and walk away from. That $5 Shark, which I can I can get just about anywhere, is going to pass a lot of muster, and where it won't, I can just throw it away. One of our very favorites is this little sucker here, DeSantis Holsters. I know Julie has shown you this before. DeSantis Holsters has come up with this thing, and this does pass muster with TSA. It does pass muster in most places because it can be open. So this is a little leather coin purse. And I know a lot of guys, someone like me, when Julie came up with the idea of me carrying a coin purse, I kind of didn't like that idea. But, I'm driving my car to a different place, we're going to go into town, I might need some quarters for the parking meter. So, I got some quarters here in my leather coin purse, which has got a zipper right here, and I can reach in and get my change from it. And then it's also got the nylon handle right up here, so that I can hide this on my person. I can carry it unobtrusively, coat pocket, my back pocket, it even has, because it comes from a holster maker, an experienced holster maker, it even has a little polymer J hook that can be removed. But if I were to decide to carry it even more conspicuously, it could be done that way. And yet, being a heavy stitched leather bag full of quarters, it could have some utility. The way I like to express it is, if I'm in the dark alley and the guy says, "Give me your money," I can grab a hold of that handle and give him the money very, very vigorously, over and over again if I really had to. So it becomes a good answer. I can explain why I've got it. It has a perfectly legitimate, non-defensive, purpose, and yet it does have that utility. It can be something that I can have with me in a lot of places where I can solve that problem. And of course, if we're looking at something like that, or a lot of people have a you might on a daily basis carry a pocket knife, or the tactical pens. We've seen the aircraft aluminum pens with the knurled edges and all these different things. In addition to double checking and making sure you're not on shaky ground, from a legal standpoint, I think, as trainers, it's important to say we don't just hand these to people and go, "Here, good luck with that." You do want to get some training, some basic striking and basic defense training, and really maximize the ability to use something like that. Julie, like a lot of trainers do, Compass Defense Group offers some improvised weapons training. So, a cane, an umbrella, there are so many random objects, that are, you should see, when you go to the hotel room and they've got the hotel room, the hair dryer that the hotel room itself comes equipped with. We've seen that. It's amazing what Julie could do with that hairdryer if she had to. It's pretty astounding what 25 years of martial arts experience, with the Filipino weapons, what she could do with that corded hairdryer if she had to. So there are a lot of alternatives. It's not just about going armed, but we also know that the gun is the thing that attracts the most attention. It's the thing we're going to have to pay, some real attention to. Like I think it's worth repeating that one of my most fundamental rules about traveling out of state is familiarizing myself. That gun's going with me. That's part of the reason I have it. So when, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, I'm by myself, I'm not near my home, I've got this means to defend myself. I want to know what those rules are. I want to know, how friendly or how unfriendly, how difficult, how easy, what I can and can't do.
Right. You were talking about improvised weapons, and excuse me, I've got to get a drink here. And I always carry water with me because I get thirsty all the time, and one of these filled with water makes an incredibly efficient striking tool. And these, yes, you can carry these through TSA as long as they're empty. But on the other side of security, you can fill them up at the water filling station. That way, you've got an improvised weapon for you. You're not filling the landfill with plastic, and you're not having to drink out of plastic, and you save money. So all these things, plus you get a really handy improvised striking tool there. One of my very and I literally carry this thing everywhere.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So when I'm on the range teaching, this is with me. If I'm traveling through the airport, this is with me. If I'm out in the field on the tractor, this is with me. As our friend Caleb Causey says, drink water. So interestingly enough, we talked to, by the way, I did not know about that Sharpie marker. That's new to me. And I'm going to, can you get it on Amazon? I assume so.
I believe so. I'm pretty sure that they still manufacture it. It's Cold Steel, the knife manufacturer, and it's called the Shark.
So I'm going to see here just for fun, because this is a product I have never seen before.
I think we ran into those at the NRA show a couple of years ago, but.
Oh, wow. Yes, Amazon does carry them. They are available on Amazon Prime. So you can get free 2-day delivery. This is really great. And yes, they do have these things. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Huh. New one on me. In fact, hang on. I'm gonna one click buy now. And I'm gonna there we go. Okay. It'll be here Tuesday. Cool. Oh Lord.
See, this is another great
in,
example of how this show works.
Yeah,
you know, you can get information and you can use it that fast.
Right away. You can use this information right away, folks.
It applies now.
This is just proof that you can use it right away. So as we're running out of time, why don't you tell us a little bit about Mid-Ohio IMB. So why don't you, say something more about it that you didn't before, and be sure and give us contact information, how to get a hold of you guys, on your social media and all that kind of thing.
Okay. Yeah. We're Mid-Ohio IMB transitioning to, we are going to be known as Compass Defense Group. The way we're setting up right now is we should be able to link that stuff together. I am woefully ill-equipped as far as the knowledge of how exactly that transition works. But right now, we're reachable on our social media. Mid-Ohio IMB is on Facebook and on Twitter and on Instagram. They can be looked up right there. You can reach myself or Julie, Julie at midohioimb.com, Andy at midohioimb.com. We have the website, midohioimb.com. And although we may be mere weeks from that changeover, the way we have it planned is that we should be able to link that. They should be redirected, Mid-Ohio IMB website. It should be redirected to Compass Defense Group, but that isn't set up just yet. So as far as that goes, I think the social media contact is probably the most reliable thing at the moment. Because with my luck, now that I told you this is going to link together in the next couple of weeks, it's probably going to turn itself off like a light switch tomorrow. I don't know, but we are out there, and we're able to get with people, and we're happy to answer questions and talk to people about what they want and what they're looking for and what we can provide. We're planning on taking Compass Defense Group forward, into the training business as far as we can. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, we picked the name Compass because, our purpose is, following the principles of the IMB Academy. We want to help people find their way. We want to help somebody identify their path.
I think that's great. And, and I want to remind people that, that you guys have some classes that nobody else does, like using the flashlight as a defensive tool. I mean, nobody else does that. And certainly not with the quality, because I have trained with Julie. I got to beat on her. Well, the pad she was holding anyway, because if I beat on her, she'll kick the what out of me. So I'm very, very careful not to do that. But I did, we did some stuff with striking and all that kind of thing with the flashlight. It was really great. Learned a lot there. So thank you for coming on. Before we go, I want to remind everybody, of course, about the premium membership deal, right? Grant 10, GRANT, the number 1, the number 0, all one word. Put that in. Your first year of premium membership at Personal Defense Network is only $10. Screaming deal. And the other thing you should do, if you have not, sign up for the free weekly newsletter. And again, there are links all over the PDN site to sign up for the weekly newsletter. It's how you keep track of all the stuff that we're doing. It'll tell you about this show. It'll tell you about new articles, new videos that are coming up. It'll tell you about Rob Pincus's live show that he does every month on a different topic. All that stuff comes out in the weekly newsletter, and it is the best way to keep up with what's going on here. And believe me, there's just all kinds of stuff going on here all the time. It astounds me sometimes how quickly we've grown over the years, because I was here at the beginning. And so check that out. Be sure and sign up for the newsletter if you haven't already. Now, our next show is going to be, well, let me look at this here, June 7th, which is the first Thursday in June, and that's actually 2 weeks from today. So be sure and be here for the June 7th show, again, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you want to get a hold of me, and I always enjoy getting your emails, the comments, you can send me an email, grant@grantcunningham.com. And I'll get that. And I enjoy hearing from you and hearing your comments. And I've gotten some show ideas from time to time. So please do that, grant@grantcunningham.com. And of course, the website is www.grantcunningham.com. So feel free to send me an email, especially if you've got any ideas, things you'd like to see on future shows. Let me know that. I am, of course, on social media, on Twitter and Facebook. And I've got, of course, my blog at grantcunningham.com, where I expound on all kinds of interesting things. And of course, you can check out my author page on Amazon. And on my author page, you'll find things like my latest book, Protecting Your Homestead, Using a Rifle to Defend Life on Your Property. And this is the very latest one, came out just a couple of months ago. Oh, look, Andy's got a copy. Look at this. Andy's got a copy too. Yeah. And so be sure to check that out. And all the other books I've written are available on my website as well. And of course, from Amazon. And oh, by the way, the iBooks bookstore. So if you like to read on your iPad, you can do that. If you want to read it on your Kindle, you can get it in Kindle format at the Amazon store too. So that being said, I hope we will see you again on the 7th of June, which is 2 weeks from tonight, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And we hope to have another great show for you. So we'll see you then. In the meantime, stay safe. This weekend, particularly, this is a weekend of traveling. Stay safe during the Memorial Day weekend. We'll see you next month. Bye-bye.